Yeah, it's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleeping pads or allowed to morning. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reason Sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we still proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reason Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Welcome back to Off the Floor, or 5 on the Floor. I'm your host, Greg Sylvander. I've been doing that a lot lately. We come to you directly after the post game loss that the Miami Heat had to the Memphis Grizzlies, 141-125. Tonight's floor plan with me, Digital Adel. We are going to recap the Heat's last preseason game, the dress rehearsal game, really, where we think we saw most of the guys that we think will be part of the regular rotation. We're going to get into what we saw tonight. It's unfortunate that the Heat couldn't get a win throughout this entire preseason. That feels especially compounded by the fact that they didn't get a win in the playoffs last year. So they've lost a lot of games in a row. But before we dive into all that, I want to reiterate to everybody, as this Heat season kicks off and as you're getting plugged in to the Heat team and kind of getting back in the groove as the season starts, you got to get on Off the Floor. The link is in the description of this episode. It's $2.99 a month. You can bypass the Apple upcharge by using the link in the description of this episode. It's the most Heat anywhere. We're going to be talking Heat 24/7 here. We're going to do stage shows, Q&As. We're in-game chat, all kinds of stuff. So you want to get subscribed here before the season starts. Around the trade deadline, we'll have you plugged in there. So this is your place to go. The other thing I'm always shouting out is using the code 5 on PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy simplified. You can use it in the state of Florida, but it's also legal in a bunch of other places. You can do flex plays, power plays. This is where you choose more or less on statistics that make sense to you, on the players that you are confident in or less confident in. And it's really fun. So check out PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com. Take the code out of the pre-filled area where they give you a code and put the code 5 and hook us up here at 5 on the Floor. Those are the public service announcements. Adele, finally, let's get to the proceedings. I'm particularly worn out as we do this show because the Miami Hurricanes just dropped one to Louisville at home. And basically, I feel like that's ruined their chances at this whole college playoff situation. And so it's just another year of more of the same old Miami Hurricane disappointment. But I'm going to put that aside and we're going to talk Miami Heat basketball. What do you make? We're going to get to the game in a second, but I don't want to make too much of the last preseason game of the year. What do you make of the 3-point shooting, which was better tonight in that it was 39% for the Heat, which in all the other games, it's been like really, really bad, Adele. What do you make of the preseason? Not just all the losing, but I think that they didn't really have a lot of stretches where they played particularly well.
Right.
What are your takeaways from that?
So my biggest takeaway from the preseason is that Norman Powell is a very good player. And the Clippers basically gave him to Miami for a bag of chips. I mean, Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson. I mean, I appreciate Kevin's career, but what he was at that stage and Kyle Anderson, for you to get a guy back like Norman Powell, I mean, he's an easy scorer. He gets to the rim very easy, scores well in the paint, can hit the 3 ball. everything is done in the flow of the offense, so there's not a lot of dribbling going on, which is a big thing when you're trying to play faster. And he just fits so easy and seamless with anybody that they put with him on the court. So I really take away how well Norm has played. You got to see some of Bam tonight being aggressive, looking like his regular season self. So I'm looking forward to taking that into the regular season. Where over the last 3 games, Khalil Ware, I thought he's shown consistent effort, motor, been engaged and locked in, and I'm looking for that trend to continue into the regular season. So what I make overall of the team, I still think it's a flawed build. It's going to be a struggle every night. One thing I've been saying for a while, and not a lot of people catch on to it, but when you try to play fast, you also then have to be locked in even more defensively. Your focus has to be better. Your floor balance has to be better. Several times tonight, you saw a long 3 quick in the shot clock. The opposite guard didn't rotate back, and they gave up some layups and easy buckets in transition. So I think my overall synopsis is they're going to try to play faster, but it could have some unintended consequences on the defensive end.
I think that's a great point. I remember a play, and I was listening on playback as I watched the Canes lose that game. Gosh, that's crushing. But anyway, I was listening to y'all, chop it up on playback. Join us there and watch the games with us. I'll be plugged in for the regular season for sure. But there was even a play where it was either Davion or Drew who took the shot, so they weren't supposed to get back. It was the other guard that really needed to get back, and they didn't do that, and it was for an easy transition dunk, I think. But a lot of those hit ahead passes happened tonight. Also, to kind of emphasize when you talk about the defensive side of the ball, the Memphis Grizzlies shot 20 of 39 from 3. That's 51%. They shot almost 53% from the field. That's the kind of stuff that would lead the league if it happened throughout the entire season. So the Heat, this team, because you're mentioning playing fast, the unintended consequences, I know, and you haven't talked about it on this episode, but I've listened to enough of what you and Ethan have discussed that the shooting is going to be a major issue. So how else are you going to win? It's going to have to be on the defensive end. You're going to have to take care of the ball, and you're going to have to play really good defense. Tonight, the Heat didn't do that. And so we have a lot of question marks, I think, heading into the regular season about not the individual players, and we're going to get into a little bit more of that, just kind of top-level takeaways as we head into the regular season. But I think that the way that this all is going to come together and coalesce and become something either, playoff worthy or not, that's a huge question mark as we start the regular season. But let's dive into our first segment, and we'll get into the good, the bad, and the ugly here.
And now it's time for the A-Aggressive Insurance Player of the Night, sponsored by our friend Lynette. You can find her at insurancebylynette.com. That's with 2 N's and 2 T's, insurancebylynette.com. If you need car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, or any other type of insurance, she's the person to go to. Based in Lauderhill, she services the entire Tri-County area here in South Florida, and she will make sure to get you the best deal. She'll probably talk to you about the Heat while you're at it. Reach out to her, insurancebylynette.com. And now, the player of the game.
So like I said, in the preseason, I mean, if we had to narrow it down to one player, Adele, I don't know, probably Norm or Bam would be my choice, but let's just talk about these 3 in general. And I'm interested for your perspective here because Khalil Ware did have a good end of the preseason and was productive. Statistically, was their most productive player probably in the preseason. If I'm just, I haven't looked at the stat sheet, but I'm just kind of thinking back to the box scores I've glanced at. Do you think on opening night against Orlando that this is a situation where you're going to see Bam, Nico, and Wiggins? Or do you think it's going to be Ware, Bam, and Wiggins to start the season on opening night?
So to me, I think it's still Niko Jovic's job as long as he's healthy. I still think with their lack of ball handling and facilitating, I think he's a guy that can really make that offense go, make the right pass, get the rebound and go, start the break, that sort of thing. So I still see Niko as starting. I like what I saw from Kel'el Ware. I like the fact that he's playing hard. He had 14 rebounds tonight. He had 20 points. He was leading the league in rebounding in the preseason. So these last 3 games, he's really stepped up in that regard. I like the fact that when he got on the low block, it was 1 or 2 dribbles and a jump hook, or someone set him up for a lob and a dunk. And if he does that, I don't know if he realizes that or not, but if he gets to that low block, takes 1 or 2 dribbles and gets into a jump hook with either hand, he's unstoppable doing that. He could score 20-plus points every night doing that. So I would like to see him do that even more. But ultimately, I think Jovic gets that starting spot, but Ware coming off the bench can be a real force.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that it's Nico's job to lose. He was injured tonight, so we'll see how they suit up. I tend to agree with you now, and I initially thought Spo was going to try to lean into the Ware Bam duo to start the season, and then if that went sideways, he'd go to Nico. But Nico is further developed than maybe I thought he was going to come back and be this year. So Ethan, who predicted it would be Bam and Nico, I think is going to be right when we get to Wednesday up in Orlando, which Ethan is planning to cover that game, so he'll be on site there. But the other thing here that I think we should take away from just this last game is that I think some of the there was a little bit of panic about Bam's game in the preseason so far. Right. And I'm glad you mentioned we saw more of a regular season version of him, because I don't think that this is something to worry about. No. I'm not saying he's making some crazy leap where he's going to average 25 a game, but I do think that and Ethan and I debated this a bit, so I'm interested in your perspective. I think Bam can get pretty damn close, if not to 20 points a game this year, just based off the fact that I think his efficiency could go down just a bit, because they're going to need to find offense, and there's going to be moments where there is no better solution than Bam, particularly when Tyler is out. Do you see Bam as a guy who could maybe get to that 20-point per game mark on this team, or do you think that I'm being a little optimistic with that viewpoint of his averages?
No, I think he could. I mean, as long as he's getting to the foul line, like he went to the foul line 5 times today, and that's because he's being aggressive. As long as you get the aggressive Bam, because the only thing that's holding Bam back from being that 20-plus points per game type of guy is his mentality. So he has to be in attack mode, game in and game out. If you can get that aggressive Bam going to the rim, getting fouled, hitting some mid-range jumpers, maybe a 3 here or there, he can get to those 20 points per game. Now, is he going to be a 25-point per game guy? No, I don't think so. He would have to that switch would have to fully flip around for something like that to happen. But as long as he's getting to the free throw line and being aggressive, I think he's going to be just fine. The defensive stuff, I never had a question about. Him playing hard, there should never be a question about. I just think people don't quite understand how the preseason works sometimes.
Yeah, that's very true. And also there was the Heat played a lot of preseason games. They ended the preseason 0-6. But there were some teams that only played 4 preseason games, and I don't know what's up with that. Like if you have an option to play more or less, or if that's just dictated to the league, or dictated to the teams by the league. But the other takeaway here, and it's less player specific, but I do want to get to some of the bench guys before we wrap, is 141 points on your home floor. Listen, I don't give a crap if it's preseason, if it's the charity scrimmage. 141 points is too many points to give up.
Yes,
exhibition basketball. So I'm a little concerned, and I hope that the defense finds its groove early on. And that's why I think that, as much as, and Ethan and I have debated this too, so I'm going to throw this one at you as well. He thinks Drew Smith may be the opening starter as a placeholder for Tyler, so that Davion can get acquainted with his bench role. I think that they need Davion, even though Drew Smith is a solid defender. I think they need Davion's pit bull like point of attack stuff in the first unit. Do you agree? Disagree? Where are you at with the Drew Smith Davion?
It doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why. Because their point of attack defense is going to be bad no matter what. And you saw it tonight as well. Because say you went with the starting lineup of Tyler, Norm, Wiggins, right? That's a bad point of attack lineup. Norm's an okay defender. Wiggins hasn't been a good or elite point of attack defender since years past in Golden State. He's not a very good point of attack defender anymore. So no matter how you mix those point guards up, it's not going to matter when your wings can't really defend. And then don't get me into the bench. Like Jaime Hawkins Jr. was getting cooked on the perimeter by Gigi Jackson at the end of this game. And Simone Fontecchio gave up 3 layups in a row on the other end, just getting blown by. He's not a very good defender. So when your wings are compromised like that, it's going to be very difficult for you to have point of attack defense at all.
Yeah, that's among the issues. I mean, it's kind of scary that you head into the regular season and some of the question marks are defense and scoring and shooting.
And
Those are
passing.
like really big pillars of the game just generally. So just even if we speak philosophically, it's kind of it's ominous to have those kinds of question marks heading into the year. I do want to talk about the bench a little more specifically before we do that. And then we will finish this show. Let's do our next segment. We'll get to the Mobile C-Arm and Staffing X-Ray Play of the Day.
And now it's time for the X-Ray of the Play of the Day, brought to us by our friends over at Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services. Nelson and his team will bring the X-ray equipment and the staffing to you. If you work in a hospital or a medical office, get a consultation today at c-armandstaffing.com or give them a call at 561-891-9620. Their fleet of trucks at your service. Again, it's Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services, 561-891-9620. And now, the X-ray of the Play of the Day.
So this was with about 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. And it was a great play. Norman Powell made a move, got in the lane, threw a really crafty left-handed lob, and Bam finished over the top. It was really my favorite play of the night. You called it out immediately as the play of the game. Other than that, it had been a Kalel Ware put back kind of tomahawk two-handed dunk. And you did, and you mentioned this multiple times on playback, so I think we should credit him. Kalel Ware is doing a lot better job grabbing the ball with two hands. And yes, I know that sounds like a super elementary thing to talk about, but those are the small details that are really important for him. And so shout out to him. He had some great plays, but the play of the night was definitely Norm to Bam. Did you know Norm had that kind of pass in his bag? Because I don't know if I did.
I didn't know he had that kind of touch on his passes. And the one thing I really like about Norm that gets lost in that play is how well he comes off screens. And when he comes off, he's downhill in an instant. And he's so strong that when the defender is on his hip, it's like he's not even there. He's like goes through him like he's a running back. So like he came off that screen, was downhill quick, had it in his right hand, switched it to his left, and then just floated it up over the top to Ware. Yeah, I didn't know he had that kind of passing in his bag.
6 assists and only 1 turnover. Sorry to interrupt you.
You literally took the words right out of my mouth.
That's funny. Let's wrap this show just talking about the bench guys, because I think we did get at least an idea of what I think the like 9 or 10 that are going to be rolled out initially are. I think we've settled on the starting lineup being some semblance of what we saw tonight. Obviously, Nico can be subbed in for Ware, provided he's healthy on opening night. But then the other guys that are going to play, Drew Smith's going to find his way into some minutes, even though I really think they're going to lean into Davion early in the season a lot. But then the other guys are going to be Jaime Jaquez, Pelle Larsson, and Simone Fontecchio. Tonight, they each played 26, 20, and 17 minutes respectively. Jaquez, who's had a really good preseason, I want to credit him for coming back and looking a lot better. Even tonight, there were some moments where we all were like, here comes the spin, and he didn't spin. So he was only 1 of 8. So it's not indicative of a great offensive game, but he did have 6 assists and only 1 turnover. Larson was relatively nondescript tonight. Fontecchio looked better on offense, but I feel like his minutes are going to be frustrating, Adele, because although there could be moments where you're going to get little shots in the arm offensively, you're probably going to give it up on the other end. How do you feel about the rotation? Do you think that this is probably around the 8 or 9 guys that we're going to see? Terry got some minutes tonight. So, like, do we need to consider the idea of Terry Rozier in the regular season? What are your thoughts on kind of the bench and how that's going to stack up as the season starts?
I think because there's not a lot of ball handling and facilitation on this roster, you could start seeing some sprinkles of Terry every now and again at the back end of that rotation. So it is definitely possible. Jaime Jaquez Jr., he was on ball a lot. I think they were trying to get a good look at him to see if he could facilitate a little bit with that added responsibility. And I think that's why you saw he only shot 12.5% from the field tonight, but he did facilitate well. He had 6 assists. So I do like that. But I think you hit the nail on the head of what the rotation is going to be. I just put that little caveat out there because Terry makes a lot of money and he's a veteran. Spo tends to like to play veterans and give them a second chance, so to speak. So I could see it happen at the bottom of that rotation.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world that the Heat got a good month out of Terry so that he could at least look like an expiring that is useful for somebody in some way, shape, or form. But I think everyone is hoping for kind of other guys to rise. And obviously we haven't had the chance to really see the regulars with Kasparas Yakachonis. And he, again, missed tonight. I think he's going to probably start the regular season inactive because of injury. I saw the last listing was a groin, and that's always scary. I think they should take their time with that. But because you mentioned facilitation and just being creative with the basketball, I do think that this year there is a chance that Yakachonis is going to get like a real opportunity to drive at least portions of the game and try to change the pace and be a different look. We haven't got to see a ton of it in the preseason. I understand that. But do you think that there is, just because of the specific needs of this team, is there any world where Kasparas Yakachonis is in the rotation in the back half of this season?
Yeah, I think there's a world for that. And the main reason is he can defend, and he's willing to defend, and he plays extremely hard. Spo will play guys like that. So the offensive stuff is good, but to get on the floor and stay on the floor, he's got to be able to defend. He's got to be able to do the little things, not turn the ball over. So, yeah, I do see a world for that because he does have a unique passing ability. He's 6'6", and he's 200-plus pounds. He's a big guard. He's not a little guy. And I think his shot is better than people are giving him credit for. So I also think he can shoot it. So as long as he's healthy, as long as he gets an opportunity to prove every day in practice that he's not going to turn the ball over, I think Spo will give him a chance at some point this season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I hope that it's sooner rather than later, just like Tyler's been kind of he keeps plugging. I'll be back sooner rather than later. Yakachonis, I hope he's healthy as well really soon. That wraps the preseason 0-6. That is rough. But there is precedent. And Thank you to Brian Fonseca. Shout out to him for doing some research on this. But there's been a few teams that have ended up really good in the regular season that didn't win a damn thing in the preseason. I'm not saying that's going to be the Heat, but I just don't want fans to be overly sensitive to the record. Although 0-6 does hurt when you lost the last 4. So you're kind of like, we're on a 10-game streak here. Let's hope it ends Wednesday at Orlando. We'll have you covered there. Adel, thank you for your time. You're going to see a lot of Digital Adel, Major Passins, and a bunch of others from 5 Reasons Sports, but especially those two, along with myself on home game, post-game shows this year. So we look forward to bringing those to you. But the Heat lose this one to the Grizzlies and the preseason 0-6. But better days are ahead, and we'll see them in Orlando. Peace.